the reminder.
No problem. Thank you.
So what we're going to do right here is we have to solve these, right? We have to solve this function that will basically give you 2 to the power of whatever power you pass here. So if power is 2, it's going to be 2 to the power of 2. If power 3, 2 to the power of 3. As simple as that. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, how do you compute the power of a number? It's basically, for example, 2 to the power of 4 is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right? And this is going to be basically 16. How do we translate that into a more Pythonic / algorithmic way? It's going to be something like, we're going to start with a number. Let's say number. And we are going to start with the number 1. And we're going to say something like, now get your number and multiply it by 2. And now your result is going to be 2. Get that number again and multiply it again by 2. 2 times 2. So you had, number was 1. Then you multiply it by 2. So you have now 2. Number is 2. So that number that was 2 is now 2 times 2, and you have 4. You guys follow me, right? So then you're going to do something like num equals num times 2 again, and now you have 8. And now you're going to do it one more time, num times 2, and now you're getting 16. Make sense? Basically, we have to do 2 to the power of 4. And that means repeating this operation 4 times. When we have to repeat something, it's of course the clear pattern to use any sort of looping control flow structure. You guys can hear me, right? Because I see this weird reconnecting.
Yes. No, you're good.
All right.
For me, you're good at least.
Yeah. So it's basically the same operation 4 times. Anytime we see something repeated, of course, we might be able to use a looping structure. Which one, for a while, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk more about that later. So basically, what we will have to do is repeat 4 times this operation. And after this repeat 4 times, num should be equals to 16. Are we good up to this point? Makes sense to people?
Yes.
Let's try to reconnect to this thing really quickly. I guess we might be having a DNS issue. If I can get in touch with you guys and this is not working. Yep, completely dead. All right, no worries. We can do this locally. I'm going to share my screen, my entire screen. People are having issues with DNS. Oh, there it goes, connecting again. Yep, connected. Sorry for the inconvenience. And all my code is gone. Nice. So we had 2 to the power of 4 was actually 16. We have num equals 1, num equals num times 2, 2. We have 4, 8, 16. Repeat 4 times. Well, actually translated. We're going to do num equals 1, repeat 4 times, num equals num times 2. All right, so that's what we had before. One quick drift away from this conversation. You guys know that if I have something like x equals 1, x equals x plus 2, which of course makes x equals 3, I can just do x plus equal 2, right? This line is equivalent to this line. Anyone with issues about that? So if I have y equals 2 and I want to do y 2 times 3, I can just do y, I'm going just to put it for reference, I can do y times equal 3, right? So these lines, again, are equivalent. If someone has an issue with this, please let me know, because you will start getting lost. So basically, we can translate these to times equal 2. All right, so we are like incrementing in every new loop the times operation, and we're getting the powers of 2 result. All right, any question? So now we had 2 ways to do a for loop. We had we had 2 ways to loop. We had a for loop and we had a while loop, right? So we while po2.py, we could do something like while condition body of the loop. If we want to use this type of construct for a power of 2 function, we're going to do something like, and I accept any suggestion or ideas that you guys have. We're going to start with our number 1, and we can do something like while we want to repeat 4 times, so we're going to start with a counter, which is basically 1, let's say it's 1. So we're going to repeat, we're going to get inside a loop, and we're going to say repeat while counter is less than 5. If it's 1, it's good. If it's 2, it's good. If it's 3, it's good. If it's 4, it's good. If it's 5, it's no longer good. You will get out of the loop. All right, this is the condition. Repeat while the counter is less or equals than 5. All right. Of course, when we're going through our for loop, we have to make sure we increment our counter, because we might get started into an infinite loop. So we're going to do counter plus equals 1 at the end of our body. We still have our body here. We have to do some work with this while loop. So what are we going to do? Of course, we're going to do the same operation that we had before. So if we do this and I finally print the number, right, the result, I will get, hopefully, yep, 16, the result that I want. Make sense? So let me turn this into a function so we can be more precise about what we need. Power. Two cubed is basically power of 2, 3, print 2 cubed. Something didn't work as expected. Power plus 1, actually. There you go. All right, do you guys see why I changed this? I have to either, if I want to get the power of 4, I will need to repeat 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The counter is starting on 1, right? So I will compute that the first time, second time, third time, 4 times. So the 4 needs to be in the limit. Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So this is the way that we have to make this thing work with the while loop. Let's see really quickly. How to work with the for loop. The first and most important thing that we have to understand about a for loop is that the for loop will it's a nice construction to iterate over collections. All right, so let's start with our collection of names. We have a list of names. Is Tim around? Are you here, Tim? No, he left. I usually use Tim as an example, so he's going to feel referenced a bit.
Tim is here.
Oh, Tim's here. Cool. Did you steal his microphone? Okay. All right.
Whatever works, man.
So the idea of the for loop is to give us an easier way to iterate over this collection. I'm going to say easier because if everything we knew about programming was just up to what we just saw with the while loop, the way we have to, for example, print all the names in the list could be to do something like counter equals 0. I'm going to do while counter is less than the length of the list names. Get a name. Names at the position counter. Print name counter plus equal 1. Right. So this is the way we have to loop through collections. Right. We start with a variable counter. It's initialized as 0. We get the first element, 0. We print it and we increment it to 1. We get, again here, 1 is less than 3. So we get this name over and over again until counter gets equals to 3. 3 is not less than 3. So it just basically exits. Anyone has an issue or a question or want me to explain these again, or I can move forward?
I have a question.
Yep.
So for the print, is it just part of the print functionality that once it prints the first name, automatically it jumps to the next line?
Yes.
It includes it. Okay.
The print line will always add a new line character at the end. Yep. So the issue with this is that first it's ugly. We have to initialize one more variable. We have to make sure we access the element. And finally, we can't forget this thing, because if we forget it, we will get inside of an infinite loop. All right. So this is such a common pattern iterating over collections that the Python guys decided to create a special loop construction to loop through collection, and that's our praised for loop. Basically, our for loop will just iterate through elements in a collection. So it's going to start with something like a pointer, right? This is the start right here. And as you run through it, the first time it runs, it's basically initializing the pointer at the first element, and you're getting the first element. You can do whatever you want. The second time it runs, it will move the pointer. Basically, name is going to be now Mary. You can do whatever you want. Third time, it loops over it, moves the pointer one position to the right. You get an you do whatever you want. One more time it runs, and it checks that there are no more elements, and it just breaks out here. So the for loop is just it's just a nice, beautiful way to iterate over elements in a collection. Make sense? Someone with any question or doubt about it? All right, awesome. So coming back to our power of 2, we said 2 times 4 was actually 16, and it was the same thing as doing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, sorry, equally 16. So basically, if we want to use a for loop, we could do something like times to loop. We can do 0, 1, 2, 3, right? 4 times. We can do actually 1, 2, 3, 4, makes more sense. And we're going to do something like for iteration in times to loop. Sorry, forgot to initialize this variable. Res times equal to print the result. Right? The same thing as we were doing right here. We loop a few times. How many? In this case, 4. And we increment the variable inside anytime we iterate. So if I run this, it's actually giving me the number 16. Now, as you guys are seeing, I'm constructing this list just to let me loop 4 times, but I'm not using these numbers. I'm not using the numbers at all. And for example, these for iteration in times to loop, I don't even using iteration. So I can give any name that I want here. I could put I, for example, or I can put just an underscore to minimize the noise in the code. So these things should work in the same way, because I am using the for loop just because I want to loop 4 times, but I don't care the contents of this list. Make sense? Have any question or doubt about it? So using a for loop and a naive list to iterate a fixed number of times, just construct a list of 4 things. It doesn't matter what are these things, right? I can put 0, 0, 0, 0. I just need 4 things so I can run the for loop 4 times. Doing this pattern is such a common thing that the Python guys also, they are smart, have a nice construction that will let us create these lists, create this list on the fly. And the function to do that is actually, I guess you have all seen it, range. So I can do something like range from 0 to, and I will put a 4 here, but the upper limit is not included. So it will go from 0 to 3, and I will get basically the same result, right? The same result as I get right here. Usually we go from 0 to whatever, so I can also eliminate the 0, and that's going to be the default value, and now I'm going to get the same list. All right? So range 4, it's actually giving me 4 elements, 0, 1, 2, 3, from 0 to the upper limit that I set right here. So I can change this function now, it's not even a function, to do range of 4. And I can do this. Make sense? One more time, let's turn it into a function. And here, of course, we have to repeat a power number of times. 32. Make sense? Questions? Nope. We're good. All right. So if you guys go to the practice that I have just sent you, we have a few assignments. We have the nested box that it's basically doing the how was the assignment called, Jason? Create box. It's basically building a box with a for loop nested. We also have this. We require you guys to do the same thing with a while loop instead of a for loop. And if you keep moving forward, you have the nested pyramid. And pyramid is basically this same assignment we have right here. And I'm going to go over it. Nikhila, are you still here?
Yes, sorry.
Cool. So I will go really quickly over this one, just for you guys to provide some help with it. All right. So basically the idea is that I'm here, let me create a new file. Basically the idea is to construct something like right? Let's say that we start with this manually without any for loop. We will do something like print, just 1 star, print 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and finally 5 stars. And this is going to give us a result. Of course, we're seeing here a repetition. So we can turn this thing, anytime we see something repeated, we can turn this into a loop, any loop construction that you guys like. Of course, we prefer the for loop, as we do not like to go incrementing variables as we do here, because if we forget, we will get inside a for loop, so an infinite loop. So what I'm going to do is I need to loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I'm going to do for something index, let's say, or for number in range of 5. What was 5, a range of 5 returning? Who can tell me?
0 to 4.
0 to 4, exactly. So range of 5, it's equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can do something like I will print, and here what do I have to print? Of course, I have to print a variable list, or I mean a variable string. It's not always the same thing. And of course, if I loop through this list right here, I could do something like print the asterisk or the star times, and let's say num plus 1. So the first time this loop is running, num is going to be equal to 1. So I will basically, sorry, to 0. So basically I will have num plus 1 is going to be 1, and I will have the first star. So let me run it really quickly. Oh, I'm going to comment this one out so we can see it. Of course, we said that in range we could change these to start from a different number, right? So I will start from the first number, so sorry, from number 1, and I will go up to 6, so I can basically remove this ugly thing. Make sense? Mm-hmm. But we said that we need a nested for loop to do this. So basically, I have to find a way to create the string using a nested for loop. So how could we create, for example, this string using a for loop? It would be something like my string is going to be just an empty string, and then I'm going to use string plus equals a star, string plus equals star. Whoop. Actually, I can use the same thing. Right? So I'm starting with an empty string, plus one star. I'm basically getting this. Again, I get this. Again, I get this. Again, I get this. Again, I get this. All right. So again, here we have another repeated pattern, another pattern in which we see repetition. So I can turn this thing also into a for loop. So I could do something like, s equals empty, and I can do something like for let's say I in range. How many times should I run? Well, depending to the level that I am. So if this is the first column that you are iterating, you need just 1 star. If this is the second time you're iterating, you need 2 stars. If this is the third time you're iterating, you need 3 stars. So basically, I will loop inside here as many times as the level that I'm currently in. So I will just loop as the same number that I have here. So I will do num, and I will just basically do star. Once I'm over with this, I will just print the string. Actually, let's rename it. Oh, sorry. Well, let's just let it as it is. And anytime it runs again, you create a new line. So if I run it, we're having the same pyramid as before. Make sense?
Okay.
Anyone has a question? Nikhila, make sense?
Yes. Yes. Just one for loop. Yeah. That's fine.
So basically, you start saying, I need to iterate 5 times to print the rows. But to generate the row itself, I also have to loop. So you have one loop, and then you have another loop inside of this other loop. That's why we need a nested for loop. It's like the movie Inception. It's like you get inside the first case, printing something, and to create this thing, you gotta get inside another for loop to generate the string, get out, and print it out. Make sense? Anyone has any question about it? About for loops in general? Nope? All right. So, Jason, Rosie, anything you guys would like to add?
Nope.
All right, so now that we have our walkthrough completed, the idea is for you guys to try to do the more advanced looping constructions with the assignments that we have just sent. There are a few assignments that will start using default arguments for functions, and that's going to be the topic of our class from tomorrow. So I want you to also start paying attention to those. It's like, as a side effect of working with advanced control flow structures, we're also starting to get familiarized with default arguments in functions. Any question? Can I just go get some water and watch you guys suffer in Jason's segment?
You're sick.
All right.
Okay. I didn't realize the inverted pyramid is a part of the exercise. That
That
was
what?
inverted pyramid, right? I asked question about that actually. The nested one I understood because you put it yesterday in the extra assignment, right? It was recorded. The
Yep.
inverted one, I was like racking my brains because I didn't get the exact combination to print the inverted, right? So that was what I asked, but I see that that's in your assignment for now. So try that out. I'll try that out again and then.
Okay, so again, guys, the idea of this coding session is to make an individual condensation, solidify the control flow things, and make use of it as a regular coding session. If you have a question, go to Mentor's Help and just ask whatever you need, all right?
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it. Thing is, if you need anything, any help,